Alrighty, from the Beaver County Auto Studios, well, it is the command bunker. Hi, I'm Dan Kingerski. We're not going to have a lot of the bells and whistles today here in the live chat. So, can you see me? Can you hear me? Seems like it froze up already, which is not good. Here in the live chat. So, can you see me? Can you hear me? Seems like it froze up already, which is not good. Okay, I'm okay. I will figure this out. Watch this. Here in the live chat. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna do it like this for the remainder of the show. It looks like the second camera is not going to the second phone. Not going to cooperate. Obviously, the weather has me out in the middle of nowhere. You can see behind me snow and woods, and if you know me at all, you know neither of those agree with me very much. So, okay, everyone, we had I don't know how many people left, but so let's just dive right into this here. I can see the chat over here to my right. I can see and I can hear you. So I can tell I'm sweating. I get so angry when stuff doesn't go well. But so there we are. We're not going to do a full hour today, probably just because I look ridiculous, and I'm not entirely sure how this is. Well, hello once again. I guess this is part 2 of the live chat. No one can ever say that I don't work really hard to get around some of these technical difficulties and make all of this go. Hang on, let me let everyone know that okay. So let's do this. I think I've got the phone secured here. I didn't expect to get shanghaied or stuck kind of well more than an hour outside Pittsburgh. I didn't expect this to happen the last few days. I expected to be in the new digs or in the office today. But I want to talk about a couple things here before we get into. I know a lot of get into a lot of the trade stuff. Let's start with this player here, Brian Dumoulin, because obviously the thrust of the Penguins the last couple of weeks has been Justin Schultz coming back, and all of a sudden Brian Dumoulin looks like a beast. He is stepping into the top of the slot. He's letting it rip. Even his shot is harder than it's been. He used to make Paul Martin's shot look like it was heavy. I don't quite know. Maybe it's just a little bit of a jolt of confidence, maybe a little kick from the coaches. Maybe it's one of those things like Major League pitchers. When somebody is going, like the top of the rotation is going, it brings along the back of the rotation. It could well be that with Brian Dumoulin, just because he is playing maybe some of the best hockey he has ever played as a Pittsburgh Penguin in these last handful of games since Justin Schultz came back. That's a really interesting to me because obviously he is a mellow, stay-at-home guy who boxes out in front of his own net fairly well. Let me see if I can fix my sweat. That's good. By the way, there we go. See, had an extra T-shirt with me, which was pretty good. And I've got some giant shoulder. Anywho, maybe I should just wear the T-shirt, but. Dumoulin himself has been just, I think, dynamite, which has really given the Penguins 2 offensive pairs Now, Justin Schultz is going to have his ups and his downs, right? Coming back from the injury, it's going to be a couple more weeks before Justin Schultz is really dialed in. The first couple games, you're going on adrenaline, but after that, well, things are going to settle down, and you kind of hit a little bit of a lull sometimes, and you're not going to be fired up every game. You're going to be a little bit tired. Your legs get heavy, and all of those sorts of things. So Dumoulin actually adding offense takes some pressure off of Chris Letang, takes pressure off of Justin Schultz. Now, one of the things we probably, I'm kind of done. I'm done talking about Jack Johnson. Quite frankly, there's nothing I'm going to say. In late June, the internet tastemakers decided this was not a good idea. And so people just keep piling on. Every scratch on the car is noticed. It's like when you wash your car, you notice every little nick and scratch. Last night, for example, in the first period, Jack Johnson goes with Evgeny Malkin on the rush. Now, it was a good move. It's exactly what the defenseman is supposed to do. Phil Kessel did what Phil Kessel was supposed to do and covered on defense because he was the last guy up the ice. He was would have been the high forward. Every player was in their right position, but look, the puck goes bouncing past Phil Kessel, who really should have played it with his hand, with his foot. Said he kind of just whacked at it with his stick. You really can't see my hands. He whacked at it with his hands. It went bouncing past him, and Johansson made a really nice backhand over Matt Murray. Somehow that was Jack Johnson's fault, and it's one of those things. I'm kind of done talking about it, only because you're going to see what your emotions tell you, and so many people's emotions have been locked in on this. Jim Rutherford used The Athletic today and Josh Yohe to get that same kind of point out there that people haven't given him a chance. But really, look at the Penguins and how they're playing. They can win with Jack Johnson, and that's the important part. The things he does are never going to be glamorous or sexy, and so we go. Now, one guy we should talk about, Zach Aston-Reese, who has been just an animal in the Penguins' top six. I didn't expect it quite like this. He had a couple of good games, and then the Penguins on Sunday tossed him into that six, and all of a sudden, all of the tumblers fell into place, didn't they? Because then the Penguins' second line all of a sudden had some heavy, and it had some scoring touch. Aston-Reese, what he's doing, he is bringing Evgeny Malkin along for the ride a little bit, because he's playing so linear, he's playing heavy and down low. That's creating space in the scoring zones for Evgeny Malkin. And Malkin's taking full advantage of it as well. Now, as the Penguins went into a bit of a defensive shell or a defensive stance, I should say, last night in New Jersey, that really hurt the second line's overall advanced stats. They were a bit behind in the scoring chances. But I also, I think your eye test and mine counted a whole lot more scoring chances for that second line than they were given credit for. I think they were only given credit for 3 or 5 when they probably had 3 in the second period alone. Malkin was buzzing. Malkin crashed at the net. That, to me, is a scoring chance. Even if he got the penalty, it's still a scoring chance. So I don't necessarily know that I go with all of those, some of the advanced stats from last night. I thought the numbers were a bit skewed. Brian asked if he's still leading the league in plus minus. Brian, I honestly don't check that stat at all. It really is one of the most, we've got so much better statistics. Even Corsi, in my mind, is a better statistic. As shallow and hollow as it can be sometimes, even Corsi is better than the plus minus. Game against the Rangers was the best of his career. You mean Brian Dumoulin? Absolutely, Drew. Yay, Canada, eh? Yeah. This is one of my. It's such a great comfortable t-shirt. Yeah, Medina says her Twitter timeline right now is a JJ and Jim Rutherford dumpster fire. What do you say to that, really? Like, what do you say to an opinion that is obviously so far removed from logic, reality, rational? You just smile and keep going, I think, right? Keith says, did you see Washington put Smith-Pelly on waivers? Are they going to make a move for Duchesne? I think that's an interesting... Smith-Pelly didn't do so hot in the regular season last year. I mean, he's one of those guys that I've been watching for a few years. I've thought he had a lot more talent than he showed in Montreal. You'd see flashes of it. And then it all came together in the playoffs for Washington last season. I thought he was unstoppable on that fourth line. It was, who was the center that went to Vancouver? The Capital center that went to Vancouver a long time. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. But Brett Connolly and the bottom six for the Capitals, I thought carried them to the Stanley Cup, and you need that. You need those third-line guys on the nights when Ovechkin isn't going to score. You need those third- and fourth-line guys to chip in, and the Capitals did that. I wouldn't be surprised to see someone snare Smith-Pelly. A month ago, I would have told you the Penguins should. After seeing what I've seen the last week, no, I don't think Smith-Pelly would be an option for the Penguins, not when you've got Teddy Blueger and Garrett Wilson in the press box. I don't think the Penguins would do that. Drew's, I guess we're going to talk about the Capitals going after Duchesne? No. Look, first of all, the Capitals don't really have the cap space to do such a thing, and a lot of people watched the Penguins last season at the trade deadline. The Penguins got the big fish, Derek Brassard, and they couldn't make him happy. I think a lot of GMs may have learned from that, don't you? I think that, let me get comfortable here. Let me slide into the chair a little bit. Or get. I think a lot of GMs maybe reevaluated going after those big guys. And what you're going to see, here's a Nick Bjugstad, a guy who can be versatile. The Penguins really think he can be top six. I've been telling you since the beginning, third line center. I think that I'm being proven right. Yeah, no, yes. Jay Beagle. Thank you, Derek. Derek and Steven both knew that Jay Beagle was the guy I was trying to think of. Thanks, guys. All right, so do me a favor, fire away your questions. I do want to get, of course, into the trade deadline just a little bit. I'm going to get back to Zach Aston-Reese before we do that, because I think even without his inclusion in the top six, the Penguins, with their current configuration of centers, would have the right mix. But boy, Aston-Reese just adds so much, because look, a week ago, Phil Kessel's struggles were hugely important. A week ago, if Phil Kessel didn't play well, didn't help on the scoring sheet, the Penguins were largely dead in the water. They needed Phil Kessel to be a core piece and a core player, but you come back to Zach Aston-Reese, he takes all that pressure away, because just by playing his game, he helps that line create offensive chances. Now, Zach Aston-Reese, probably not a 40-goal scorer. Let's not get carried away. He's probably, anyway, he keeps getting better. Maybe we don't know his ceiling, but he's probably not an all-star kind of guy. But that crash and bang, that heavy, that puck retrieval, that puck pressure that he supplies on that line is just so tangibly important that he's going to make that line go and make that line look better. I kind of think maybe the Penguins are a little bit more surprised. I mean, you know, perhaps they were going to put Dominic Simone on that line Sunday. That's kind of been the modus operandi and the go-to move, right? But he was having such a great game, was Czar, that they couldn't help it. They couldn't help but chuck him into the top 6 and see what came out of the soup. Joe asks, is Nick Jensen an inexpensive addition at the deadline? Yeah. I don't know how inexpensive he would be, though, Joe, because I know that Toronto has sniffed around him, and Detroit kind of kept raising the price, just kind of kept going up and up a little bit. I really think that Detroit is, and from everything and the people I've chatted with, I've kind of checked in with my Detroit folks to see if the Penguins were perhaps sniffing around Gustav Nyquist or Jensen, and the Red Wings are in quite a unique position, and they've put themselves there in so much as they've got this young talent that they want to continue developing. They've got a style of play that they want to continue developing, but they've got a couple guys, Nyquist and Jimmy Howard. I think they try to sign Nyquist, or if they trade him, they're going to trade him to a place they know is not going to sign him, and they bring him back. Jensen's kind of the same way. I think they have designs on keeping Nick Jensen and putting his name on a deal. It's just my reading of the tea leaves there. I think Jimmy Howard is probably the only player who gets dealt. And even then, if I had to bet 50-50, you're going to see Jimmy Howard in a Wings uniform next season too. Ken Holland has spent a season building up that perception that he doesn't have to make any deals. He has spent all season long being very positive, whereas St. Louis Doug Armstrong tore down his team, and Paul Fenton is, even with the Wild in the playoff position, has signaled that he's going to make moves. Ken Holland has done the exact opposite, much like George McPhee, who has said, nope, not touching a rental player, we're out on that. Stephen asks about moving Kessel in the offseason. Yeah, I think if there's an offseason to do it, this will be the one. But really, that's so far removed. And I don't know how much I can get into this. Because last summer, obviously, there were two very divergent tracks of reporting on Phil Kessel and the Penguins. Pittsburgh Hockey Now, The Athletic, I think DK as well. I think they were the third on the Penguins were unhappy with Kessel. There was some unhappiness somewhere in the camp between Sullivan, Kessel, perhaps moving Kessel, so on and so forth. And the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette took the exact opposite tact, kind of saying, no, none of that is true. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see, obviously DK, Pittsburgh Hockey Now, and The Athletic are not working in tandem. I think we can all assume that. So obviously there were maybe some divergent schools of thought inside the Penguins on what was going to go down on that. And so when you bring up Phil Kessel, it really does come down to what Jim Rutherford wants to do and not anybody else. So do I think they maybe open the door to that again this summer? Yes. Will they? I'm not going to bet on that one bit. Take it for what it's worth. Thoughts on Kessel's abysmal defensive coverage? Yeah, look, I'm not going to pile on Phil Kessel. I despise when we all pile on one player and, we go Jimmy Snuka off the top rope and everyone just keeps piling in there. Yeah, Phil Kessel's just not good at defense. And to really kind of bag Kessel for not being good at defense, I would have to bag Jack Johnson for not being good at offense, because Johnson really should have kept that puck in the zone a little while longer too. He should have been a little harder on the puck. I think a winger goes in there and the battle takes a little bit longer. But Johnson kind of went flying in there and the play came flying right back out. It's just one of those things. Everyone was in the right spot, but maybe just a bad storm of people being put into positions where they're not necessarily going to be successful. Is that politically correct enough, Keith? Simone and a third for Dzingel, huh? I don't know what Ottawa's going to do with him. I really don't. They've been holding and holding and holding. Here's a guy who's busting out, but he's also young. What is he, 26, 27? Having a bit of a career breakout. So Ottawa's going to try to maximize that. Truth. Now, I don't know where the Penguins would put anybody else. I genuinely don't. They would, for the Penguins to make a trade for a guy like Dzingel there, they would have to move Tanner Pearson, which I know last month or so, you don't mind that one bit. I think the Penguins would mind that a little bit. And I don't know that his value is astronomically high because of his last month anyway. So it's really tough. Put a pin in Tanner Pearson. Let's get back to him in just a little while. Theodore, I really like Nick Bjugstad and how the third line center kind of reminds me of a right-handed Jordan Staal. He seems to get a lot more touches with the puck. He's more involved with the play when he plays center. Yeah, without getting too in the weeds with this, and if you want to go a bit deeper on Pittsburgh hockey now, I did in the report card and in the second column I published at 9 o'clock this morning about the Penguins' lines and finding their identity. I hope you give me maybe an ounce of credit for being the guy who was kind of been calling these lines for a week or two now, or even longer than that. Jared McCann is going to be a good player for the Penguins. No ifs, no ands, or buts about it. I think he might be the third line of the future. But right now, his speed, his tenacity, really looks good on the left wing. I loved how he pushed the play on the left wing last night against New Jersey. That opened up so much space, and it allowed Bjugstad to do some of the things that Bjugstad does well, distribute the puck, kind of drive, that center drive. Also allowed Bjugstad to get low in the zone, in the defensive zone, and play defense, at which he is very capable. McCann is faster, so Bjugstad and Hornquist are able to spring McCann and go along for the ride. I really liked how that worked. I don't know if there's an offensive punch on that line just yet. Penguins are going to have to get Hornquist. Let's be honest, something is amiss there, right? That's not the Patrick Hornquist that we all know. He's feisty as ever, but there's a little something missing. Just could be a slump. It could be something physical. You can speculate. But when they get all three players on that line working, I like it. It suddenly becomes, it's not a lethal third line, because it's not great offensive players, but it's very competent. It's very professional, workmanlike. And that's going to do well with the Penguins because they've got enough scoring. They needed that professional and competent third line, and Bjugstad, McCann, and they can actually put somebody else on that right wing. Heck, if Zach Aston-Reese goes a bit cold beside Malkin, they could drop him on that line, and he could do some wonders. They could put Simone there. They could put Brian Rust there. They could do a lot of things. Sullivan will never be done tinkering, but by all means, he's probably done with the big wholesale changes. Now we're getting into those sorts of tinkering. Dan, I think Simone should stay. Don't you think forwards are fine? One more veteran defenseman? Yeah. I think if the Penguins do anything, Ron, that would be it. Like I said, I don't know where the Penguins would fit a guy like Dzingel. I don't. There again, Pearson would have to go, and it just, I don't know if the Penguins want any more upheaval. They've had enough, and now, a week ago, I very much disagreed with that. When they were still, everything was just up in sorts. No one looked good. But suddenly the tumblers are in place. The stars are aligned. And now if Mike Sullivan leaves Bukestad at third line center, I think that's the key to everything. Bukestad at third line center, Phil Kessel on the right wing. They can really make a lot, other little changes, and the Penguins will still be just fine there. Pearson to Buffalo to get Sherry back. That's fantastic. I appreciate that. There is one team to take a look at, and they keep watching the Penguins, and I haven't yet figured out why. The Dallas Stars, they're really active. I mean, they are. Dallas has kind of flung the door open. Their defense, top 5 in the NHL. It's no longer a statistical anomaly. I think they're actually playing well, and they could use a bit of offense, quite frankly. So that's one team to keep an eye on if the Penguins do anything, because maybe they've got a defenseman if that's what the Penguins decide that they want. Although the way the Penguins defensemen have played over the past 5 days, where would you put him? Although, I guess maybe we're overestimating Chad Ruedel there. There's another team to watch. I think the Columbus Blue Jackets, right now, I think they understand their position in the Metro Division and the Eastern Conference. And what I mean by that is 5 teams, 4 spots. Wait, let me get that in the screen. There we go. 4 spots. And the Blue Jackets have to be very worried about that. They know the Penguins are going to catch fire. They know Carolina has caught fire. Montreal has Carey Price, so they're going to be in it every single night, right? So Columbus has to be worried. They also know that this is it for them. If they keep Panarin and Bobrovsky and don't get a haul back, next year they're going to have a lot of money to spend and no assets, or few assets. So watch Columbus. I think they might feel that desperation necessary to overpay for a guy like Matt Duchene. Let me see if I've got a picture of Matt Duchene. No, I didn't load him up before the before the show. We are kind of doing this bare bones. You can obviously hear the audio isn't the professional grade quality. We're just doing this right straight to the phone. Why is Simone getting a jersey over Blueger? Theo asks. Simone's offensive creativity, I think you saw it last night, what Simone can bring to a lineup. Simone has more facets to his game than Teddy Blueger. Now, there again, Simone falls in that same you've decided you don't like him category. Fans have piled on and decided that Dominic Simone should be the co-pilot on that starship to the sun that we all launched Jack Johnson on. I get it. Know that the organization really likes Dominic Simone. You saw so much of his hustle last night. He brings that same kind of hustle and tenacity that Blueger brings with a bit more puck movement, playmaking. He's not a finisher. Good Lord. We used to pick on my one friend when we used to hang out at Mullins on the North Shore back before Mullins was only open like 1 day a week. And Mullins was still kind of a little bit well, I guess it never was cool to go to. But anyway, we were part of the family there, and we had a great time. We used to pick on my one friend who could open a conversation with any woman he wanted to. Closing was the problem. That's kind of Dominic Simone. Dan, we like you. No, not this Dan. There was a second Dan. If he ever saw this, he'd probably start laughing. Married, 1 child now. He finally closed. He closed the deal. But that's kind of Dominic Simone. He does a lot of things, and I think the Penguins are content to let Blueger maybe watch for a little bit as well. He's the 13th forward, ability-wise and everything else, experience-wise, behind there. Perhaps JR wants to move an extra piece to Dallas to recoup a pick. It could. Look, I think, well, no, I think any pick recouping would happen after the season in advance of the draft. It doesn't happen at the trade deadline. So, yes to the idea in June. not in February. Simone is a turnover machine. Jamie, I'm not sure I see that. He plays in the dirty areas, a lot of puck battles. And those aren't necessarily turnovers so much as just a battle. And a lot of times the lines he's playing on, puck support is not great. Look, he is what he is. He's not a $7 million guy. He's a guy making $750,000 who can score 35 or 40 points. Every team needs at least one of those, if not two. Blueger also doesn't play right wing, and Pearson only plays left, so Blueger is the logical choice, even though I don't like it. Yeah, random. That's another good point. Although I think at this point, if they put Blueger on defense, he would do it. But yeah, he'll play right wing, left wing, wherever he can to get a sweater. But Pearson's a left winger, which does kind of limit the lineup flexibility down there. Never trade Cullen. No. I am working on a story about Matt Cullen. I upgraded my phone last Wednesday to T-Mobile. Yesterday, I undid my upgrade to T-Mobile. I had to go running back to Verizon when I had one bar at the arena. It was just it was rough. So I'm giving you a little heads up. If you want great data service at PPG, Verizon heads and shoulders. Anyway, I lost my interviews. I did an interview with Zach Aston-Reese and Garrett Wilson about Matt Cullen, and so I have to go back and redo those and kind of do a mea culpa with those guys. But yeah, Matt Cullen is so much a teacher with those guys. There was even I think I hinted at it or made a reference to it last week in one of the free columns that I wrote. There was a well-paid forward that Matt Cullen was kind of tutoring last week in the locker room. And what he was saying is probably irrelevant, but the player was all ears, just all into it. And Cullen was, helping him through one phase of his game. That's 42-year-old Matt Cullen. I don't know if he's going to make a great head coach or not, but I do think you're going to see him behind a bench not long after he's done playing. Brian, Simone is a good fourth liner, but he is not a better player than Blueger. Could this possibly be showcasing Simone for a trade? Then Blueger slots back in. I think you're in the right church, Brian. If the Penguins do make a trade, I think Simone is certainly a guy that is a possible move for them, yeah. But in terms of putting him ahead of Blueger to showcase him, no. Certainly don't think that whatsoever. Simone, at this moment, is more valuable to the Penguins than Blueger. I know it doesn't speak to the emotion you want to hear, the answer you want to hear, but that's kind of the cold reality of it. Let's see here. Yeah, NES and I share the same opinion of T-Mobile this day. Doesn't Nick Bukestad remind you of a right-handed Jordan Staal? Yeah, they kind of have that same frame and that same sort of condor-ish stature. Neither guy is fast, but or at least you don't think either guy is fast. They take 3 strides and they're already there. Yeah, I see that. Both very defensively responsible. I think teams both also expected more offense from both of them. Jordan Staal expected a lot more offense from himself, I think, than the Penguins did. But yeah, very true to compare those two. Dad Medina says, will make a good coach on whatever level someday. Always willing to learn while still willing to pass on his knowledge. Yeah, look, there's a reason why the Penguins love him off the ice. Now, on the ice, there is a stubborn faction of Penguins fans and bloggers that just will not give Matt Cullen any sort of due or credit. Look, Cullen played 12 minutes last night. that fourth line has, look, that fourth line had jump and hop in the third period. It really did. They were skating for their lives, were Simone and Pearson. They created offensive chances, even they didn't get credit for a couple. Just a lot to like there. Matt Cullen is the Penguins' best fourth-line center. He's actually a very good fourth-line center, Stanley Cup caliber. Just, I guess I don't want to argue that so much. The things he's doing defensively. Again, last night, he was guarding the Devils' top line numerous times. That takes so much pressure off of Sidney Crosby. You wonder why Sidney Crosby is going to have a real good chance to get to 100 points this year. And Jake Guentzel is going to have a real shot at 40 goals. Why? Because Matt Cullen is freeing them up. He's allowing the Penguins to chuck them into more offensive positions and situations and not have to worry about the Sidney Crosby line guarding the other opposition's top line. And so if Sidney Crosby can get some minutes against the other team's third line, who's going to win that battle? Yeah. Mr. Bob Probert's back. Bobby, how are you? Oh, it looks like Bob Probert's in his own conversation on the chat board. Hey, everyone, do me a favor. Use that chat board. Like and share and spread the word here. I'm really happy to do these at least once a week. We will do a trade deadline show. I'm not sure if I'll go live on the deadline day or maybe the day or the night beforehand. Let's see here. I think the fourth line has been really good the last couple games with whoever has been on it. I think we kind of all forgot about the 2016 Penguins, didn't we, gang? One of the things that drove them was Brian Rust and Connor Sherry and Tom Kuhnackel. And am I missing anybody else? The Wilkes-Barre gang? Those guys were playing for sweaters every single night. They were going gangbusters because if they didn't, they were gone. They had to prove themselves. They had to earn their keep and sing for their supper every single game. And that created a competition within the team where everybody else had to raise their game too. You can't let the kids show you up, right? And it elevated everything. I think you're going to see a little bit of that with the fourth line. If Tanner Pearson slacks off for a game, if Dominic Simone slacks off for a game, you're going to see Blueger or Wilson get thrown back in there just as a reminder, hey guys, there's a couple hungry dogs right behind you. And Blueger especially, you drop him into the water and you're going to have like an Alka-Seltzer Fizz. He's that kind of player with that kind of energy that the Penguins can use. But last night you saw the urgency back in Dominic Simone's game, which, boy, that was a welcome sight for the Penguins because he does have that playmaking ability and he can make centers better, even if he doesn't score. Sup, Dan? Loving the show. Thank you, Mr. Probert. Sean, coincidence that Aston-Reese was part of the Penguins' win streak and now may be a part of another win streak if they can keep going. Sean, not a coincidence at all. Aston-Reese is a penalty killer. He is hard on the wall. Here, we'll go back. So you've had enough of me. Enough of looking at me and the snow-covered mountains behind me. He literally does everything. Mike Sullivan kind of gushed about him last night too, because he really does play in every facet of the game. And now that he's figuring out his offense, now that his hands are softening up and he's getting in better positions for offense and learning the NHL game, oh boy, there is just a lot to like about Aston-Reese. And don't forget, if you start looking for some four-wheel drive fun, check out our sponsor at beavercountyauto.com. Or just drive up to Beaver County. I'm sure the snow isn't bad up there. Let's see. Rebin says hi. Hi, Rebin. Let's see here. I think the baby pens injected into the lineup is a good thing. Yeah, absolutely. Glad the Penguins beat the Devils. I thought it was very important for the Penguins to beat the Devils last night. even though the Devils are a last place team, what were they supposed to do? Lose? If the Penguins lose to the Devils last night, all of the good vibes, the good feelings, and all the things they put in place. Oops, let me plug the phone in here before it. This is going to be a challenge now. I am balancing the phone on a cord. There it goes. Let's try this. Okay, I have probably lost the ability to put any more graphics on. Like I said, this is from the command bunker, deep in parts unknown and parts unwanted. Can you all hear me? Everything is good? So, let's see. Let me scroll back through the comment. Oh, do you believe Murray's inconsistency is more the result of physical issues and limitations, the injuries, or is it mental? Both. Don't get too hung up on singular games with Matt Murray. When Murray is playing well, they come in bunches, and when they're not, they're going to come in bunches. Like every other goaltender on the planet, quite frankly. Murray was not good last night. I think I gave him a C-. That first goal, he just didn't track the cross-ice pass, or he didn't make a good lateral movement over to the other post, and Jesper Bratt's shot, I thought, should have been an easy save for Matt Murray. I really do. Second goal, kind of a similar situation where he didn't track the puck as well as I thought. I'm gonna get my sweater's just been just so sloppy in this show. It's driving me nuts. Let me see if I button a button. Will that help? I have to cover up the Canada, though. I hate to do that. My apologies, Great White North. Maybe I just... Nah, didn't really help, did it? Just a bit wrinkly. So, anyway, if you can't get service in the middle of a well-populated... Oh, yeah, more T-Mobile stuff, yeah. Give T-Mobile credit. They actually, thankfully, still had my, my iPhone 8 Plus in a drawer with the case. They just were a little bit delayed in sending it back. So I got everything back, and Verizon gave me a little bit of a gift to come back. So it was a hassle, don't get me wrong. I had to spend about 3 hours of my life getting all this stuff done, but you know, I was compensated for it. Yeah, but no, my sweater is not half washed. It's just been hanging so long. I was rolling around here in the mountains with a t-shirt, believe it or not. But anyway, back to New Jersey and the trade deadline. I'm veering off, and people are like, what the hell, they're leaving. Getting back to the trade deadline and the Penguins, in so much as I don't think there's any spot for a winger unless it was a real impact winger. And even then, where do you put him? The Penguins would be more in the market for a fourth-line guy if they could shed Tanner Pearson's salary. And in terms of a defenseman, the third pairing last night, and I know you want to obviously get rid of Jack Johnson. The third pairing with Chad Ruhwedel, I think, is where the Penguins might look for a veteran defenseman. Marcus Pettersson can be beaten on that left side, and Chad Ruhwedel generally comes back to earth. Ruhwedel has this really interesting curve. He starts very conservative, and he gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then he kind of becomes Icarus and gets too close to the sun, has that one bad game, and the Penguins pull him out. That's just sort of the way, the circle of life with Chad Ruhwedel. Though Juuso Riikola is waiting in the wings right now as a seventh defenseman, so I'm not sure exactly how desperate the Penguins would be for a defenseman. They gave away their second-round pick in the Nick Bjugstad, Jared McCann deal. Get in the center of the shot. So I'm not sure quite how much the Penguins have to give. If somebody fell in their lap, sure. But otherwise, I think this is your Pittsburgh Penguins team. Tristan Jarry is a guy that I put on our trade bait list. And I put him there only because I know that some other teams would like him. But the Penguins would be foolhardy to deal Tristan Jarry without replacing him. And just a little insight into the Penguins' thinking. The Penguins are already concerned about Matt Murray's contract status. I'm not going to get too much into it. What I know is secondhand, bounce off the walls kind of stuff. Nothing from Matt Murray or the negotiator himself directly. But the Penguins are already kind of aware that Murray was on a short-term deal. So they may very well have some conversations with Murray this summer before deciding what they do with Jarry. If Matt Murray comes to the table and wants more money, well more money than they think he's going to be worth, that could get to be a little bit of a complicated and sticky situation. No question about it. Drew, not scared of the Caps this year, nor the Jackets, nor, frankly, the Islanders with their inexperience, only afraid of the Atlantic. Drew, you should be afraid of the Islanders. Here's why. Barry Trotz. Now, Trotz is traditionally a second-round coach. He takes an under-talented team, and he drives them well beyond their capability into the second round. Because they're so well coached, so well structured, and they just play for each other. They're a wonderful team, capital F on that. They've got some goaltending. Robin Lehner keeps getting better. And Greiss keeps pace with Lehner. And so you have this situation on Long Island. And look, by the way, the Islanders are in on Matt Duchene. If they were to land him, and you've got Barzal and Duchene, well now, that becomes a team that you don't just pay attention to, but that might be quite fearsome. The Islanders are so tough, though. Anybody who reports trade rumors on the Islanders, generally speaking, is full of it. Because Lou Lamoriello is the most secretive, like intently secretive GM in the league, without question. He instructs his conversations. I don't want to hear any of this in the media. So if there's anything leaking out, it'll come from the Ottawa side, and it'll be them trying to drive the price up. But if they do that, then they're gonna lose. They'll lose the Islanders. So it's an interesting situation. I think you could be surprised and wake up one morning and the Islanders have paid a good sum for Matt Duchene. I think they should. It could really come down to Columbus and the Islanders fighting over Duchene. And when both of those teams realize they're both fighting over Matt Duchene, that's going to be very interesting. Dan, am I going to the game in Philly Saturday? Yes, I am. I'll be there for several days. I'm going to go out Thursday. Shelley Anderson will have your Penguins coverage on Thursday when I'm traveling. So can't wait for that, actually. And I get like 4 days of grandson time. Yeah. I get to hang with the big guy Leo for a couple days. Dan, those these coat hanger bumps, is that what the hell? Like, my sweater's just like huge on me. I guess maybe it is. Yeah, I have shoulder boobs. I should have. Oh, this is the problem. You don't care about my private life. I know you don't. I don't really care to talk about it. But that apartment that I rented for January 1st is still not ready. So I've been just. It's been a nightmare. And I couldn't take the Airbnb that I was staying in any longer. So obviously I'm at the family home out in the mountains. That's literally what's going on. I miss the city so terribly. I wanted Thai food the other night. Would have been what, like Monday night or yeah, Monday night. I needed some Thai food. So, hey Siri, where's the nearest Thai food? And it came back, you have one option. It's like, I live within walking distance of 3 in the city. Todd asks, is Ben Lovejoy a trade option? Interesting. I think anybody's an option. He's right-handed. The Penguins certainly are familiar with Lovejoy. Great guy in the room. It's possible. I certainly have not heard that the Penguins are targeting him by any means, but you bring up a name that makes sense. And I think if they do get a defenseman, it would be a guy like that. I did take some flack, of course. I mean, I take flack for anything I do, and I've kind of learned to laugh it off a good bit, and I'm getting much, much better at it too. But I included Juuso Riikola on my trade bait list. Now, we very much believe, and that word I use, believe, is because multiple secondhand folks told us that one team did almost insist on Riikola being part of any deal along with Derek Brassard. So that's why I put Riikola on the trade bait list, because other teams are going to call about him. Well, then the Penguins might recoup well more than their investment. They might find a way to get better. So you can't take that off the table. Now, everyone goes, you can't deal Riikola. He's good. He's young. Yes, all of those are true. Sometimes you actually have to give up something good to get something better. I'm not saying the Penguins are trying. Not insinuating that whatsoever. I'm simply saying that I know other teams have knocked on the door about Juuso, or at least one other team has knocked on the door regarding Juuso Riikola. Let's see here. Playoff success for any of those Islanders players mentioned? No, the Islanders are a bit inexperienced. Then again, I don't know that inexperience is a bad thing in the playoffs. I really don't, Drew and folks chatting about that. Here's why. I would rather be inexperienced, too dumb to know what you don't know, than going in like the Penguins were for several years and kind of knowing they weren't good enough, or knowing their shortcomings, or having that bad taste in their mouth. I'd much rather be young and dumb, or inexperienced and dumb, than experienced and beaten down. I don't care what you wear as long as your clothes are on. Well, there goes the next video. I was going to go, Penguins Hockey Talk, full Monty version. Fine now. Can I recommend a good Thai place? Depends on where you're at, Medina. I'll tell you what, the best Thai place in the city is not Nikki's Thai, although very good. It's actually a Thai. There's a little place in Bloomfield called like Thai Place. A dirty green awning down near Howlers at the bottom side of the hill on Liberty, just across the bridge there. There's that place, and there's a place in Highland Park called the Smiling Banana Leaf, which is really, really good. Those have been my favorite. Although the Smiling Banana Leaf remodeled, and they used to have couches around the perimeter of the wall. It sat about 20 people, and you got to sit on a couch and have dinner. It was great. They added more metal chairs and metal tables, and it kind of took away some of the ambiance. The food is still fantastic, though. Great backdrop today. Thanks, Wee Cakin. What do I think it will take for the Penguins to feel urgency in their game? The Rangers game was starting to get upsetting and frightful towards the end. They took their foot off the gas against the Rangers. Don't read too much into that. Rangers scored a goal with 18 seconds left to make the score 6-5. Or is it 5-4? No, it was 6-5, right? Don't read too much into it. What you saw last night, that Penguins motor is starting. It turned over against the Rangers. And Sullivan really has to fight the temptation now to do any more big tinkering, big changes. Sullivan right now has to kind of let everything congeal. He's got to kick Kessel maybe in the butt a little bit. Kessel has to play better. There's just no two ways about that. And other than that, the Penguins are what the Penguins are. I like where they sit. I think their game is going to continue to progress. I think they're going to be a very tough out in the playoffs. Provided they don't get that second wild card and have to go through the Atlantic, I think they can storm the Metro and be in that Eastern Conference final again. And we'll see if Toronto has the goods to knock off Tampa Bay. That would be a fun series, wouldn't it? It'd be a nightmare to cover for me, just because Toronto would have 500 media people in the locker room asking kind of those out-of-town questions. But, yeah, so it goes. I think it'd be a lot of fun to watch that series, wouldn't it? All right, kids, I have done just about an hour. Last call for questions here. We haven't yet decided what spaceship you all want to launch Jack Johnson and Dominic Simone to the sun in. We're going to go SpaceX. We're going to grab an old space shuttle from NASA. You know, we go on the clearance lot, or we're going to, you know, maybe send them off in style. If you can't tell I'm being sarcastic, please, you need to watch more of the chat. Let me make sure I got everyone's stuff here. By the way, I do have the chat enabled, like that super chat. I'm not going to ask you for money. I'm not going to ask for donations to do these chats. If you'd like to support what we're doing, go to, subscribe to Pittsburgh Hockey Now, PHN Extra. You get those extra articles. The chats will remain free. Most of our content will remain free, but some extra goodies we like to give away. Obviously, Shelly Anderson is still part of Pittsburgh Hockey Now, and I want to make sure that she's well taken care of, and the revenue we're producing. And I really want to build a great team to cover the Penguins going forward, not just this season and not on a season-by-season basis. I want to build this into a consistent and bedrock outlet that you come to regardless of my participation. I'd like to someday not work 100 hours a week and hand it off to somebody else and have a really good team in place. All right. Who do you think the Black Aces will be? Ooh, good question, Rob. I'd like to see this Ethan Prow. I saw him in training camp. Very unimpressive, quite frankly, but he's putting up big numbers in Wilkes-Barre, so I want to get my eyes on him. I think the Penguins really don't have a lot down there. Adam Johnson is another name that jumps out. Maybe they throw Kalen Addison on the Black Aces list. We'll see what Jordy Bellerive's health is. I think Jordy Bellerive might be in need of a Chris Letang type summer, where he just gets a minute to breathe and goes right back at it, because he wasn't very good. Was Jordy Bellerive was not very good in the prospect tournament up in Buffalo back in September, and the team noticed. He had lost a step through all that he's been through. So I don't know. Yeah, perhaps Anthony Angelo gets dumped on there. I'll have to check him out. I haven't talked to my guys in Wilkes-Barre too much about him. I did put him on my top 10 Penguins prospects list. Did Seattle come up with a name yet? No, I'm sure they'll have a big grand unveiling here sooner than later. Remember how long it took Vegas, too, to get clearance and copyrights? So I'm sure they're going to cross their T's and dot their I's. The Vegas lawsuit was just settled, I think, a couple months ago with the Army Rangers, or the Army Golden Knights. All right, that's going to do it for me. I apologize for the setup and the confusion at the beginning. Had to borrow a second cell phone, and that didn't work so well. But hey, we got it. I will always get it done. Maybe not in the greatest fashion, but I was not driving into the studios today either. So have fun, kids. It's been a blast. We will do it again real soon. Till then, have fun.